Russian Federation has gone through many changes, much like birthing. Starting in 1991 with the privatization activity, legislation and activity, the Russian Federation has moved through a period of adjustment and change to market dynamics. That's never easy. As we've seen in many other countries around the world, market dynamics are oftentimes difficult for people to adjust to and to accept, given that they've had a different environment for so many decades. We're in a period now where there has been pretty much across-the-board adjustment to these market dynamics. And because there's been this adjustment to market dynamics, the market has seen the ups and downs that we see in commercial real estate cycles. So, for example, it appears from the data that, for example, investment in Russian commercial real estate, which should be perhaps close to $4 billion US in 2016, seems to have bottomed out, because we have fallen from where we were in 2011, 2012, 2013, when you had $7.5, $8 billion worth of investment. So we are now starting to come back. So we are seeing the inevitable ups and downs that occur within market cycles. Well, I could speak to the United States, because now we are experiencing very robust commercial real estate markets after the 2008 decline. In 2008, we experienced significant downturns in the commercial real estate market. However, because interest rates in the US and in Europe and in China and across the board have been artificially low, investors are seeking yield, and they have looked not only to the stock market, not only to the bond market, but to commercial real estate to achieve that yield. And because so many investors have piled into the commercial real estate market, capitalization rates as well as discount rates have fallen, meaning that valuations have risen in many instances to the levels that they were prior to 2008, for example, in the apartment market, and capitalization rates are very, very low. They're compressed. They certainly have changed. The basics of the courses, with the exception perhaps of market analysis, don't change dramatically. Numbers, financial numbers, don't change over time. What has changed is our approach to the presentation, our approach to the use of technology, so that the students are very much engaged in the process of understanding the core concepts that we're presenting and utilizing technology like Excel, as opposed to the years past where we had simply calculators, and very large and clumsy calculators at that. We spend literally millions of dollars. We, being the CCIM Institute, spends millions of dollars to rewrite the courses to make certain that we have the latest in technology and the best presentation of the core concepts that we are trying to present to the students. Well, let's look at this from two perspectives. One, the numbers perspective. Numbers are the same across the board, whether it's in different parts of the world, whether it's China, whether it's Russia, whether it's the US. The numbers don't really change. We're going to make the calculations in the same way. However, for example, with respect to market analysis, that has the ability to be changed depending upon where we are. Let me give you an example. In the US, we have very good databases of information, demographic information, psychographic information. When we come to other countries, whether it be the Russian Federation, whether it be China, whether it be Japan, there are different levels of data and information that are available. So it makes the analysis a little bit more difficult than it might be in the US, but we are making progress across the board in that respect. Well, I think all of those groups are your target groups to benefit from the CCIM curriculum. For example, developers would do well to understand the financial numbers. They would also do well to understand the development process as well as the use of the market data and how we use that market data to understand where we are and where we're headed in terms of the real estate market. Investors certainly have to be in a position to understand what kind of return are they getting? How does that return compare to other capital markets like the bond market and the stock market? So all of those groups can benefit from what we provide in terms of our educational process. Well, I think it's important to have a platform of knowledge that we can work from. In other words, capital is global now. It is flowing from country to country. Right now we are experiencing a huge inflow of capital, foreign capital, into the United States, looking for investment transactions. If, for example, Russian brokers, Russian Federation brokers are looking to participate in the U.S. market by bringing capital from Russia into the United States for investment, they need to be able to work from a platform that's consistent with the way we view and analyze transactions in the United States. And much the same way, if individuals and companies and institutions are coming to Russia, they're going to have a certain perspective. If they're coming from, for example, the U.S., they're going to have a certain perspective. The Russian brokers, the Russian investors, the Russian developers need to understand what that perspective is, how we analyze transactions, and how we make assessments as to what is acceptable and what's not acceptable. Well, I first came to the Russian Federation in 2002, and at that time, what I found was that the students were more senior. They were senior in the sense that they were in the hierarchy of their companies, because at that time, the Russian Federation was really not in the infancy of privatization, but in the growing period of privatization. So many individuals who were at the leadership positions or senior positions had not been steeped in long periods of market psychology, market development. Remember, in 2002, there had only been 11 years of privatization. And so those individuals were more focused on trying to understand how things are done in other countries. They were older. What I'm seeing now is that the students are younger, that they are more technologically proficient, that they have the ability to see trends, patterns, because they've had more exposure to other market economies. So essentially, those students are much younger. Well, besides the education that we provide, which I think gives us a global platform to work from, we have the international networking. The fact that we have the ability to network with people in Japan. We have a very large CCIM community in Korea, South Korea, I should say, not North Korea, South Korea. We have a large contingent of CCIMs now in China, in Taiwan. We have CCIMs in Mexico. Annually, we have international meetings in which we bring individuals from various countries to the United States for conference and the opportunity to network and do transactions. So there's a significant benefit beyond the education in terms of deal-making, transaction activity. I think that's one of the major benefits.